Okay, so I think we're recording. Yep, and it's to the cloud. So John, it'll be ready for you when we're done.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will upload. We have, sorry, I'm going to admit one more person there. All right, I guess I'll take it over since I have a couple of line items that we kind of have to cover based on prior discussions. So the first one is the working group charter. The amendments and red line review, I guess. I don't know if Sharon or Paul, if there's anything you want to summarize. And I don't think we can vote on anything today because it's not a steering committee meeting and we didn't give a day notice. But we could always do the votes online and kick it off like today or something.
Yep. Yeah, you could definitely do that. And if you like, we could quickly walk through the red line version. Alternatively, if everyone's looked through it and they're okay, then we could skip that step. The changes that went in were purely to accommodate the move of the Eclipse Foundation to be based in Brussels. No other changes.
And I think the Jakarta group approved their charter changes, which basically are the same, right?
Yep, very similar.
Yeah. Yep. It take me a second just to flip through it if you want me to.
It's probably worth it. I mean, I've looked at it.
I have.
But I sent the note a little bit late this morning. Sorry, I completely forgot after the last call. So,
do you want me to share it, Paul?
I've got it. If you stop sharing, I can pop it up.
Okay.
Okay, and I will walk through it, and I'll defer all the hard questions to Sharon. All right. So version history changed. And apparently we still had the draft in there, we just needed to go. This paragraph was moved to the governance section. As it was, the links have been updated to reflect to link to the new bylaws, agreements, and policies that were put in place with the move to Europe. All of those governance documents were reviewed and approved by the board. Yeah, so we just tighten up some language here. Next, change of substance, which is name change. Solutions members was changed from solutions to contributing members. And actually this really doesn't have anything to do with the movement to Europe, but it was presented an opportunity to change the name from solutions.
Yeah, I don't know how we missed that before.
Well, it's new. It's new. So it's a new change. So it's appropriate that it go in now, but it was more just the foundation feeling that solutions as a membership level in the foundation, kind of the label itself had sort of lost its connection to that class of membership, and it was felt contributing was better. There we go, just tweaking the language here.
I thought it was great change.
Cool. It was much deliberated and then decided. Should be good for another 16 years. All right. So nothing really here. Just clarifying that guest members are associate members and dropping the once defined because we do have a participation agreement. Again, just tightening up the language. All right, steering committee powers and duties. Again, this is more governance and tightening things up from a steering committee perspective and clarifying that the annual fees for all classes of working group and membership is part of the steering committee's powers and duties, as well as the approving the annual budget, which is based on the fees collected. And that is something that we spoke about. The budget and the program plan is something that we spoke about in meetings in January that we look forward to progressing in a different discussion, not today, but we will get to the point where the steering committee does review and approve the budget.
Just to comment on that, is it comment number 4 says that the fees do not and should not be revisited each year.
Yeah, typically.
We did have that as an explicit goal that we do want to revisit the fees because we aren't looking to have a working group with necessarily a large budget that we don't use.
Yes, so that doesn't preclude it. It's more a comment, and you know, we will work through the discussions as we need to with the steering committee.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that when we do evaluate the fees, and if we don't need the budget that we have collected, and we're in a position where we necessarily don't have things to spend it on, and we decide we maybe want to adjust fees, that no one objects and says, well, we covered this when we did the amendment in February, that fees should never be adjusted.
Yeah, and so this bullet, I think, you know, does cover what we need and what the steering committee needs in order to accomplish what you're outlining. Okay, just improving the language here. And one thing that was introduced because of the updates to the bylaws is the notion of a proxy. You can formally now identify a proxy via a mailing notification to the mailing list for in this case the working group mailing list. It needs to precede a meeting, but that's so we have your primary and alternate. You can now, you know, it's explicitly called out a proxy.
Well,
Paul.
Oh, sorry. Who was someone else? Go ahead.
As Edwin, I have a question. Does it also count for the committee representative, Paul? Because I don't officially have a proxy.
Yeah, it does. That's interesting. So now I'll defer to Sharon because it's a hard question.
That's a hard question.
That is a really good question. And you know what? I'm going to take it to make sure I clarify fully internally, and I will respond to the mailing list with the exact response to this. Really good question.
Yeah.
And I will do so before the end of the day.
Ideally, the answer would be yes.
Ideally, it would be, but I want to refer to the bylaws, and I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page so that no one has differing information. And I'd like to clarify it for our operations guide as well.
Totally understood. I remember when the proxy concept came up a while ago, I did read the bylaws again just to make sure as well. So I completely understand the instinct to want to.
And the bylaws have actually changed, right, with the restructuring to Europe. So I'm not as familiar with them as I was the US version. So let me please get back on the mailing list.
Yeah,
can I ask for my good understanding? So if I use a proxy, if that is possible, then I won't lose my good standing if I can show up on one of the meetings, right?
Yeah,
correct.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, I hope it works out the way that we expect it to. It just it makes sense.
This has been, let me inject something here. This has been, the proxy thing has been so important since we moved MicroProfile to the Eclipse Foundation. And then with the move to Java EE, to Jakarta EE, to the Eclipse Foundation, at the beginning, members had to be strategic. And then you pay attention to the bylaws because you have to be a strategic member of the Eclipse Foundation. That was the original thing about becoming a working group member participant. And I remember attending one of those meetings and the board of directors where the proxy was used so easily. And then I wondered why was it complicated for working groups, especially the ones that are developing as we go, why they didn't have the option. And I have already started, you know, since last year or the year before, I started sending messages saying, you can use a proxy. Because if you're an organization, even Edwin, he's one person, but we have so many committers that co-pilot this, you know, the vote of confidence, because he will take vacations, he's a father, there are things that happen. And though we have 4 calls a year, I think it's something amazing for the foundation to be extremely cautious of what is provided to one group to be provided for all because it matters. That is how we show that not only we protect how we do things, but that one group is not exempt of what others get. And that is my feedback because it's so important.
I think we all agree. I think it's just a matter of double checking.
Yeah, I believe it will work out just fine. Body member is unavailable to attend. Edwin is a body member.
Exactly.
Sorry to refer to you as that. It's in the language. Okay, so let's keep going here. So the next change is the participation agreement. We've taken out the amending language here because the participation agreement is an agreement that is owned by the Eclipse Foundation. It does reflect the content of the charter, which is under the control of the steering committee. So we made that adjustment. And what's all right, so the representing good standing, at least 30 days was changed to 15 days to be consistent with the bylaws.
What does that mean? I don't understand. 15 days? We meet 4 times a year.
That states that your good standing cannot be affected for any meeting scheduled less than 15 days with advance notice. So let's say a scenario arises where there's a meeting scheduled for tomorrow, people don't show up, and then now we're smacking everybody's good standing because they didn't show up. It was only a 1-day notice. That says it has to be 15 days notice. It did say 30 days notice, which is, you know, not something we ever really would be able to do in reality. So what's written on paper would be kind of false and we would never be following it, which makes things not actually enforceable. So 15 days is much more in line with what is realistically doable. Yep. And actually that are therefore enforceable.
Yep. Okay, thank you, David. Okay, next over to the fees. No change to the fee table, but we did strike the language that was there. It was appropriate last year when we were standing up the working group. So just stale language that got trimmed out, and that's it. So you've all got access to the red line copy, and look forward to any follow-up questions, either on the list or directly to Sharon or I, and proceeding to vote at the appropriate time.
Yeah, so related to that, John and I talked about this, and because we don't have another meeting scheduled for quite some time, we'll just do the vote via the working group mailing list. And I suppose either John or myself will send that out. And we'll probably give a week's time to do the vote. Not
until my power's back on.
Whatever.
But yeah,
or I can do it too. But
I got no problem sending it out.
And as Paul and Sharon just walked through, I mean, the changes are pretty boilerplate, so it shouldn't take a lot.
And I'm happy to report that Edwin indeed gets a proxy to another steering committee member.
Nice.
So to another steering committee member. So does that mean? Can you clarify that? I guess. So it's not to another committer in the community. It has to be an existing steering committee member.
Correct.
Okay. That makes sense somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's okay. Good to know. Thanks.
So Kevin, to your question about the timing, that's perfect.
Okay, good, thanks. Okay, anything else on updates to the working group charter? Okay, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Sharon.
So I do have a question about the proxy thing though. So if we have a meeting, for example, and he is unable to attend, he wouldn't be able to appoint somebody else from the community to attend in his behalf?
It's another member of the body, of the steering committee body.
Well, all the steering committee bodies will already be there and represented and attending the meeting and have visibility, right? So it's essentially the same as him not attending. If there's a vote, you know, but you know what I'm saying? There wouldn't be somebody from the, we wouldn't be able to maintain community visibility to the community through Edwin or his proxy. Everybody who's already on the steering committee, if there was a meeting that wasn't largely open to the public, would have full visibility. And their own bias, their own specific bias on issues. Right, there wouldn't be a community representative there then.
Correct, he's passed his proxy on to another member of the body.
Right, so there wouldn't be the ability for another member of the community to attend the meeting.
Yeah, so I have to choose one of the, sorry, I have to choose one of the body members that is not already present, like a proxy from one of the strategic members.
Mm-hmm.
Presumably, so Edwin, if you want to use a proxy vote, presumably you have to tell that proxy vote which option you go for, right? So that proxy doesn't vote from his own judgment or her judgment. It directly vote for to carry your vote forward.
Assuming that what's going to be voted on is known in advance, which it's not always known. So when you say member of the body, are committer members member of the body?
No, it's a member of the committee.
So here's a question.
Committee.
Yeah, so here's a question. I know this might take this would take a charter change at some point, but is it possible to have an alternate committer member?
Could we vote in a primary and an alternate? I mean, we can.
Yeah, I think you can, because I think we did that for the spec committee for one of the positions that I think was the participant member has an alternate in the spec committee. So I think we should, I think it'd be fine for the committer member to have an alternate.
Do we need to update our charter for that?
So this question, I believe, and again, I think we should take our time. I really do want to go through the bylaws and make sure that we're very clear and pointed on, because the piece that you're talking about, the proxy piece, is actually baked into the Belgian bylaws, right? So what I'd like to do is take it away. And I believe in the past, when the question has come up, could there be an alternate for a committer member on a spec committee? The answer was no. That doesn't mean that it's not something that we can investigate into looking into, but I'd like to do that. I think we're going too far down maybe the hole here right now.
Yeah, that's
223.
I have aren't we constructing a problem that isn't there? Because all the meetings are open anyway. So the visibility to the community is there anyway by default. It's only about the vote. So Edwin can instruct another member to vote for him.
So that would be true, except last week there was a private meeting that did not include the community at large. And next week there is another private meeting. So between your comment that everything is public, there are two private meetings sandwiched on either side of this week. So they do happen, and they're usually under rare circumstances, but they do happen, right? And so in the rare situation that a private meeting does occur, I don't really feel that like Edwin delegating to, say, Tommy Tribe or IBM is the most appropriate for a committer member.
Okay, so we've got that one, and we'll look into it and get back to you all.
Yeah, I think the answer is not necessarily. I think what we're looking for is not necessarily the rules say it's allowed. or not allowed? If it's not allowed, then what we're looking for is how can we adjust things so that it could be allowed?
I have a further question for this one. So it's for this proxy, actually, it's like we are talking about corporate members as well. What if like both the primary and alternate are not there? So they will need to have a proxy. Surely the proxy kind of, that sounds a bit odd, like to get another company to do the, like from the working group to carry that proxy forward. Is that reasonable to have somebody like from the same company to, I mean, put the vote forward?
We already have that, Emily. It's already baked from, I think, day 0 of the Eclipse Foundation bylaws, that any organization can send anyone within their organization to be a proxy for meetings or, you know. But right now, what we're talking about is the rep. This has never happened before. It has been said.
A rep. All the people are reps.
Yeah, all of them are rep. We need to use the same like criteria, because the charter actually, before Edwin brought up, the charter is for the like the working group reps, corporate members, and now it's kind of all of the reps.
I'm a bit lost now, sorry.
Yeah, I think, Emily, the point that you're on is, you started this, was to say that if the primary is unavailable and the alternate is unavailable for an organization, then you know, as per the charter, then they would have to name a proxy that would be another member of the steering committee, you know, which would be somebody from a different organization, which would seem unusual. It could be. On the other hand, I think it's a valid point, but it's, you know, in my days so far in Jakarta, I haven't seen a situation where we were in that sort of bind where there wasn't a representative, either the primary or an alternate. So it's a possible point, but not one that I think is in practice one that you bump into.
I have a question on this because I have been confused then in my understanding of the proxy. If David and I are not available, we will send a driver to attend the meeting and vote on behalf of Tommy Tribe. And the statement you mentioned that you just went through, Paul, says that we will not be able to send someone that works with us onto a meeting, and it has to be someone from the body? How is that logical?
Well, I guess in theory or in practice, what we end up tending on doing is in those situations, votes tend not to happen because you tell people ahead of time that neither of you are available. Can we do the vote at a different meeting? Or, you know, under an extreme situation like that, it would be highly likely that another alternate would be named and they'd represent you.
So we would be able to just magically change the alternate.
Well, you know, it does seem to happen from time to time, but it's certainly not by design. But you know, it's in practice, it seems like we work our way through these corner cases in a way that is pragmatic.
Yeah, in the past, in the previous bylaws, proxies were allowed, and we did use them when we were on the board. So there was a meeting where neither Amelia and I were able to attend, and we sent one of our other tribers to Germany for that board meeting. Yeah. And obviously it's a board meeting. They weren't going to be the kind of thing where you suggested where we just don't have any votes because someone can't, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
The show moves on, right? That's so.
And sorry for interrupting here. This is a time check, and I know Paul, I think you had to drop at the bottom of the hour.
I do, John. And this has been a unexpectedly interesting discussion with lots of bobs and weaves along the way.
So. Always with us, you know this. You're here. You're like, yes.
To wrap up, I suggest that simply, if we are allowed, we say that when we hold the next committer election, the person who was the second place person is the alternate, and we find a way to make that be easy and allowable.
Understood.
Simply a suggestion.
I
Yep,
have
got it.
notes. I have
Yep.
taken notes. We will respond.
Okay, good.
Thanks,
you.
David. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks.
All right, we have a few more really important topics, but I think one of them is more time-bound, maybe than others, and that's the program plan, community voice feedback. So I'm going to recommend for the other topics, including the community voting, MP community voting discussion, and the Jakarta EE MicroProfile alignment continue to happen in the community. I just don't think we're going to get to those today. So that's my recommendation. And I know there's some other things under releases as well.
John, sorry to interject here. You know what we forgot? We forgot to close the loop. Sharon, you have been waiting to make public the community drive, and we had not closed that thread. Can you please close it? Many of us have voted +1. Just make it public. And does anyone here who didn't vote, who could have voted, has any issues with making the MicroProfile external drive be public? Because it's pretty much linked to the new website under the working group. Just want to make sure that we close that.
Was there a time box on that vote thread?
No, we never closed it, and many have voted.
Well, we should just make sure that we put like a deadline on the vote threads from now on, so people are aware of how long they have to vote.
So just to clarify, many have voted. I believe there was 2. I could be wrong, but it has to happen on the mailing list, the working group mailing list, not the other mailing list that the community uses. So it's just go over to the thread and mark your +1, and we'll get it going. It's not a problem.
Yeah, we have Jelastic, Garden Jog. We have Payara, Tommy Tribe. I think John. So that is 5.
Okay, if there's that many, I will go back and do a count. I thought I had only seen 2, but we internally, we've had some issues with the mailing lists getting to our inbox. They're there. We just have to go and look for them. We're undergoing a few changes. So let me do that. If it's not the number, then I'll just say, please continue voting and we'll make this happen.
And Sharon, I'm sorry, I will use the feedback on that David just gave to say deadline, because completely forgot until I started this morning, right now.
It happens. Thank you.
Good.
All right, so the response is review votes on working group thread. Oops.
We need to close it.
Are we ready? Sorry, so we are going to close it. We think we have all the votes.
Give people like
Not yet.
Give people like 72 hours before you close it.
Correct. Like
if you didn't put a deadline, it's kind of you know, well, you should put a deadline, but the deadline should be something people can reasonably meet.
Yeah.
All right.
Also, can we bump up the thread one more time so everybody who's probably not seen it recently in their inbox gets to see it?
Yes.
Yeah. Whoever started the thread, I guess that was you, Baisima. Make sure you respond to the thread today and say you intend to close the vote in 72 hours.
Yeah, 72 hours I think is great. And really totally failure on the closer on that one. It's just.
Okay, learning experiences.
Yep. Okay.
Good.
Let's see here. So I'm going to switch back out of the. I'm not used to having just one monitor during these meetings. Switching back to the Zoom call, shared screen. So you want to switch over to the community feedback on the program plan. Okay, so is there, Edwin, do you want to lead this, or is there anyone that kind of wants to lead this part of the discussion? Because I think Edwin kind of started this doc, so I want to give him the first right of refusal.
Wait, there is a deadline of February 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is like today.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, it is 9th, yeah.
Yeah. So the idea here, I think, is just to summarize, review and summarize the feedback, maybe consolidate them into a few, I don't know if we need to generalize and a couple of them and categorize them, but maybe just to go through and do a review Or do we not want to do that here and just accept them all as is?
I realized I haven't given any feedback, so I'll probably add a couple bullets, but I don't think that should stop us from reviewing this now.
Okay.
If we want to.
Yeah. So you want to go through the whole document then, John? Right
well, I'm posing the question. Do we think we should go through it here? Because here's what's going to happen. If we don't do something, what I'm going to do is probably begin this, again, I tend to use slide decks here for this kind of thing. Put all these things in slide decks as things that we plan to add to the program plan.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Otherwise, what's the point of having the community voices? And without reviewing them, I think that's kind of a dangerous thing to do.
Yep.
Yep.
So I have a question.
Let's give it a quick review.
Yeah, and I have a question on this. When I saw this, not this morning, yesterday, I noticed that someone provided feedback anonymous. And I just want to make sure that, John, you follow it super nicely. And how does people here, microprofilers here, feel about having a public group, public document that welcomes anyone to provide feedback, yet some will not use their names? Do you want to validate that feedback, or do you and reject it as it should have? Or how do we handle this? Because it's,
well, let's at least read it. So let's read it. We can decide what we want to do with it based upon the feedback.
Yeah, I think your recommendation is to, provide, your name, but if it's still valid feedback, there's no reason why we couldn't add it in. That's why we're going through the review.
Yeah, but how do we recognize what is valid or not? What is the favoritism and what makes it?
Well, technically, go ahead, Kevin.
Well, we'll validate it by examining the comments.
Right.
And so whether it's from anonymous or from John, who cares if
Right.
it's valid feedback?
I can take that.
Ideally, it has people's names on it, but we're going to read it either way.
Right. They might have forgot or something like that.
No, but what is worse is there could be someone faking someone else's name. How do we track? There is no way for us to track it anyways.
Well, certainly if someone really wanted it to go somewhere, they would put their name on it, right? If in my mind, if someone, if it's anonymous feedback and we all agree with it, then it doesn't matter that it's anonymous. If it's anonymous feedback and none of us can understand it, well,
okay,
that was their bad, right?
I'm going to put kind of a pause on this because we're going to probably spend the next 10 minutes discussing whether or not we should do that versus.
Let's move forward.
Yeah, the 20 minutes that we have to go through all of this.
Let's move. Yes.
It's a valid point. I just don't think right now is the time to have it.
Totally cool.
All right, question 1 then.
So there were a couple of different folks that made comments around open telemetry and micrometer. And this is something I know that we've been discussing in various forums. So maybe what we could say here is that, again, I don't think we're going to come to conclusions here on this call necessarily, but we could add this as an item to be discussed through Q1.
Right. Roberto and I got together, look at this feedback and lifted out the kind of the common features people voted into the program plan, added to the slide you created, you started with, John.
Okay. Oh, I should go find that. I didn't pre-cache that one. Okay, well, thanks for doing that.
No problem.
Edwin?
Yeah, I don't know everything from the top of my head, so I have to read it too.
Yeah, I was just kind of going through. I didn't know how long this was, so I was just kind of slowly going down. I noticed a couple of them didn't have names associated with them, so that's still kind of an anonymous input.
Yeah.
Interestingly, document history might provide names to these things.
It's
if we really
it's often anonymous antelope, but you can check.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's true too.
I really like Roberto's comment that bean validation could be applied to many of the things that we've created.
But
Validating, what's that?
But should we pull in more specifications?
Why not? I mean, it's something we can discuss, right? You know, we don't have to do it. But
the thing, sorry, the thing that I notice a lot with all of our stuff is we end up duplicating a lot of stuff, right? So for instance, if you look into OpenAPI, we do kind of have like a match one-to-one to the v-val annotations, not just in a different way, right? Because you want to provide the validations for the OpenAPI file, even though those validations don't really do anything on runtime, it's just to generate the API, you still have to basically duplicate annotations to provide the OpenAPI file and add the bean validation if you want to validate your POJO. That's just one case. Then, for instance, if you look into conversion, well, we have pretty much every spec has their own way to convert stuff, right? So we supply one on config, we supply another one on JOT, and I lost the count on how many conversions specs that we have internally to well, not specs, but features inside the specs.
For that converter, I can agree, but for instance, that bean validation and maybe other specifications then means that we have a larger dependency on Jakarta EE, and then we might have the question, why do we want something different if we did pull in like 50 or 70% of Jakarta EE?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure exactly what we should pull. It's just something that we should discuss, right? So for again, picking up the OpenAPI v-val example, as a user experience, it's quite hard to explain to a developer why does he have to duplicate those annotations, right?
Okay, but then comes the question, why do we have MicroProfile and not only Jakarta?
Well, we've discussed that lots of times. MicroProfile.
I know, but the question comes up again now.
Well, in that particular,
I didn't actually get the answer to the question. Just wanted to point that out. So for me, the existence between MicroProfile and Jakarta has nothing to do with the number of APIs that we consume. So the fact that we would consume one more changes it in zero ways in my mind. In MicroProfile, we are, first to market. We guess at things and we make breaking changes as a result. On the EE side of the fence, we've discussed numerous times publicly that when we guess at what standards should be, we end up with things like CMP, and it's better for us to wait until an idea has been proven to the industry to a certain extent before we decide to adopt it forever, right? And on MicroProfile side of the fence, we're happy to throw ideas at the wall and see which ones stick, and get rid of the ones that don't stick, and make breaking changes to ideas until we get them right. So that's why we have MicroProfile. In my mind, at least, adding the dependency to bean validation wouldn't materially change that value proposition at all. So that's my thought on that subject.
Well, I tend to agree. I mean, it doesn't mean that by adding new dependencies to Jakarta that we're going to lose any kind of identity, so to say, right? So for instance, you pick other examples like open tracing. So people are looking for tracing implementations or for tracing capabilities, right? Was Jakarta in a position to provide open tracing implementation or something that provides tracing? Maybe not, because if you look at it right now, open tracing is a project that is completely abandoned right now. But we were able to actually provide one when it has some impact, right? And now we can safely deprecate, and that didn't hurt Jakarta in any bit, right? Because now they don't have to pull the weight of a dead spec for countless ages, and we can just safely remove it or deprecate it and start adopting other stuff like OpenTelemetry, right?
I think is kind of, this is kind of two things. Somebody I was asked one day, beam validation user together with the OpenAPI. I think it's some runtime perfectly support that, the schema validation and etc. However, for this call, I think we roughly go through them and to list the kind of the things we all agree to do, and we could debate on the mailing list for the ones we are not sure with, right?
Yeah, we should go a little quicker. We're never going to get through
this.
I'll just simply add, I actually did a prototype of using beam validation with JWT, and it works really great. So we support it in Tommy, and I've been meaning to find the time to propose it to the JWT specs. So that's why I saw that comment and I'm like, wow, that's a great idea.
On Quarkus, we do support beam validation with OpenAPI and also beam validation with config. So there's other applications that you can use. So I mean, there's plenty of options that you can use vval. So maybe it's a good candidate to include in a new major release.
Maybe this kind of things, this is talking about integration. Maybe this could include it in the umbrella, the spec. Basically, it's declare how to get the beam validation working with OpenAPI and GWT.
And I mean when we talk about a tighter integration between MicroProfile and Jakarta, I think that also includes improving our APIs, right? So we've seen that we have a lot of duplicate stuff, not only, for instance, on conversion stuff, but in this particular case on vval side. But for me, having a tighter integration is not only about improving the APIs, but also improving developer experience, right? So if you can reduce the amount of code that the developer has to write, or you can improve the APIs in a way that's better for the developer to write them, I think that's even better for the integration goal that we want to achieve between both.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of pause discussion here. So I'm taking a note right now that says beam validation is a candidate to include in future discussions. Moving to Google Group.
Yeah. And it alignment. So I think what we need to do is oh, sorry, Tanya.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me mute myself.
Oh, okay.
Oh, apologies.
No, that's all right. I talked over the top of you anyway. I apologize for that.
Hey, Edwin.
I was going to say we need to come up with action items for our plan. We don't necessarily need the solutions. So the plan, so the plan will come up with solutions during the year. We just need to come up with the action items for our plan. So when we review this, we just need to go, okay, the action item is investigate the inclusion of potential of other specification, Jakarta specifications in the MicroProfile, right? Something like that.
I would add Dimitri's comment, adding a possible gRPC specification if that's valuable for us. At least explore the possibilities as an action item.
Sure.
Majid, you had a question. Do you want to speak now and ask it? Oh, your audio doesn't work,
or maybe English is not the.
Okay, maybe I will project on your behalf then. Apologies sorry, I have a question. This is from Majid. Sorry, I have a question about all projects in same concept. For example, Hibernate and EclipseLink and JPA and OpenJPA. Sorry, I have a mic, I have no mic. There you go.
Is the question that we should potentially include JPA as something that we rely on?
So there is a point further down that we don't have any persistence, or
Yeah,
I think that was the anonymous one. Let's maybe lump this in with that.
Yeah, it did get called out, some form of persistence. We could consider it.
Well, we can just add like these action item, which is explore other APIs / specs or specs from Jakarta to include in the MicroProfile, or investigate which other candidates we want to include. It can be VPAL, it can be JPA, it can be something else. We even discussed adding like JCache a long time ago as well. So it doesn't need to be from Jakarta. It can be other stuff as well.
So we have the explore more technologies from Jakarta, the inclusion of more technologies. We have a gRPC thing that Edwin pointed out, that Dimitri also pointed out. I think that's a good thing to investigate to see if there's interest there. And then we definitely need to write down that there's a lot of community discussion on alignment, and there's even a thread out in the community right now about potentially moving a specification. So that's obviously going to be on our plan, whether or not we write it down. So we should probably write it down.
Yeah, I will.
Is that Edwin? Sorry, when someone said I will.
Yep.
Sorry, I will.
Okay.
Edwin.
Okay.
Edwin is going to
Gotcha.
will.
You have the plan up in another window and you're kind of writing action items in there?
Well, because
Edwin? Where are we capturing these action items? That's just
in the meeting minutes.
Okay, perfect. That works.
okay, because I'll go back here to the first paragraph. The output of this document will be a slide deck that's a high-level plan. So that's kind of the goal, right? Is to kind of consolidate all of this input, have this combined slide deck, and then see if we agree with it. I mean,
Right.
I think John was indicating at the very beginning that we don't want some outlier type request come in that none of us have been able to verify or approve.
Right.
Right. So Kevin, I put the slide deck, the program plan on the chat. So basically, for the question one, like I know down the one of the slides already. So Edwin, you can check on that slide. So
Okay,
basically,
good.
yeah.
Okay, should we start looking at the next question?
Yeah.
Whoa, went right past it. Okay. What can we do to better teach MicroProfile? Should we introduce training material, code
Katas? Yeah.
Tutorials, examples?
I'm curious if anybody answered the last question. Is this an area you would like to contribute?
Yeah, I think this is a discussion. I remember a long time ago, I remember talking to you, Kevin. Now, this was in a live hangout where we were trying to figure out where should we have a central repo on microprofile.io for code samples or such, right? We were looking at, hey, maybe IBM could donate you guys had some sample code and stuff, right? And at the end of the day, we dropped that as a community. We dropped the idea just saying, well, all these vendors are creating all this stuff for their, specific product per se. So if you look out at, there's lots of books in the ecosystem. Now, early on, this was a really big problem. But now we've got, through the implementations, we have code examples and stuff. We've got books out there, lots of articles out there. So the question is, are we duplicating work if some of the content already exists elsewhere, or should we all be contributing to a central MicroProfile.io repo instead?
Well, there's also a third option. Do we want to aggregate everybody's external materials together into one page of learning resources.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right? Like I actually didn't know you guys had, you know, like it makes sense that like say Open Liberty had tutorials or examples on MicroProfile. I know we have them on Tommy. So, you know, we've got maybe like 20 different examples and translations in Spanish and Portuguese. So if these types of things exist out there, we should probably at least make it easier for them to be found.
Yes.
So in the past, we have been like trying to create a wiki page, list all these like training materials together. However, with this new investment and etc., maybe it's make it to be in microprofile.io.
Right.
He seems is the right place.
So I mean, I don't think we should turn away any examples if people want to contribute them. But if there are examples already out there, we should make them more visible on the front page, not on the front page, but on the MicroProfile website somewhere. There should be like something dedicated to learning, and people could go there and see all these various types of.
Yeah, great.
Hola, Neha, you can talk here. Come on, welcome, by the way.
Thank you, thank you. I'm just listening today because this is my first MicroProfile meeting, but I thought since this is the topic where I can just give one suggestion, like I recently started contributing to open source and I've been little more active in last 1 year. And I started my journey with Eclipse collection. And one thing I really liked about it was a very good README, where I could just go to the GitHub page and I could read about what the entire project is doing and the code katas. I must tell you, it was a really easy way to just, you know, dwell into the journey. When I saw the code katas, just solve it, and it's like a puzzle. So I really recommend if we have something like this. And I've been hearing about MicroProfile from last 6 months. Your marketing works very great. So you are out there. I think it's just a matter of how a newbie like me would like to start. I want to contribute, and I'm really looking forward to contribute here. So that's where I thought I should just say.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
well, Neha, thank you very much. I have a request and then a comment for everybody because we're at the top of the hour. Request, Neha, could you do me a favor and post, hopefully before the end of the meeting if you have time, post a link to the chat or post it to the meeting minutes, a link to the kata code examples that you're referring to, right? It could be good reference for us to go take a look and maybe something that we should do for MicroProfile. Definitely. The second is, okay, we're out of, yes, thank you very much. And we're out of time. So the question is, how do we want to continue this conversation? Because we in the steering committee meeting, we basically set next weekend as a soft date, by the way, for having a program plan done, right? And we haven't gone through a lot of this. So we could try and do this through the Google group, you know, which is always hit and miss on participation because we all have day jobs. That's not a knock. But, you know, if we all kind of put the extra effort in, we can, you know, go a long way, maybe even finish up before next week. Otherwise, I think next week's meeting has to be dedicated to the program plan.
I think probably both of those are true.
I think so too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so next week we'll focus on the program plan. And I know we have other items. It's just cycles, finding the cycles. So for those of you whose items we didn't get to in today's meeting, feel free to add them or re-emphasize them, ping people if you're trying to bring it up again in the Google group. And let's see if we can have those conversations offline.
Can I have a quick suggestion? I think this is quite a few pages. I recommend that people go and read. Maybe create for the people volunteered previously, create a one slide deck. So that next week we can go through the deck. And the homework is you read beforehand, and then we can discuss on the slide deck. And then I think that might be more kind of productive.
Well, the deck is the program plan. So if people want to do their best in summarizing, you know, if there's like 3 or 4 comments that mention the same thing, that's probably going to be an item on the program plan, not necessarily to do it, but at least to investigate it. So anyway,
last suggestion there. What if everybody who wants to take one of the questions and add a slide to the slide deck and go over that specific question at that slide? So everybody has a slide. That means we can split it up in pieces of work and not the whole document for everybody.
Yeah, there was an infrastructure related, there was a website related one question we didn't get to. I believe it was something, I'll be happy to take the ownership of summarizing those answers and making and filling out that slide. If hopefully do people want to, are there volunteers for the other questions? We got how many questions? 5?
5.
So we need 4 more volunteers.
I think the program plan is question 1 has been done. So
well,
and who wants to take the volunteer to write it down?
Right.
Is that what you're gonna say, Kevin?
Sure, I'll do number 1.
So I said earlier, number 1, like Roberto and I put in the program plan already.
Oh, you did?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, grab another one, Kevin.
Yeah.
I'll grab 6.
That's not a question.
Everyone, we are out of time, but Neha, one thing for you. It's wonderful to have you here. From day one, if you show up, you are welcome to ask questions and help improve the technology. You don't need to feel valuable after a month or 3 months or a year. You're valuable now because you choose to show up. So it's awesome you're here. Welcome.
Do you prefer Neha or Neha?
Actually, it's Neha.
Neha.
Neha, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't mind.
No, that's okay. Neha is perfect. So do you want to take one of these questions and try and summarize it into action items for the year?
I can try. I actually haven't gone through the document, but I can try.
Neither of any of us.
What do I have to do exactly?
Well, maybe take question number 2 and see if you can, what we want is, you know, if a bunch of people say, I want code katas and I want stuff like this, we kind of need like a program plan action item for the year, which is something like investigate adding this, you know, adding a tutorial section, investigate potential, you know, basically we're looking for action items, not necessarily solutions, but what is it that we want to focus on? Or potentially focus on.
I can do that. I can do that.
Yeah, you'll get lots of feedback.
Yeah. And then we need like 4 or 5 tops, right? So try not to, because it's got to fit in one slide, so keep them fairly big.
Okay, sure.
So yeah, I will team up with Emily. That's fine. For 1, that's good.
Okay. I'll take number. I think it was 4.
Yeah. So I got 3.
This one's David.
Got 4. Neha's got 2. Is there one without an owner?
Yeah, number 5. Although I think John kind of took that because he took the last number.
He took 6. So for being snarky, he gets 5.
Wait, I thought 6 is a question.
No.
Oh, there is.
Oh, it is. Oh, never mind. Okay, I didn't realize.
Thank you.
You don't have to take 5 as well. You can.
Okay, in that case, I'll take 7 so you can give me 6.
Okay. No. Who wants 5 then? That's the
take 5.
Who was that?
Me.
Oh.
Me is not a name, but yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm taking it for granted. Amelia, I can take 5.
It's Amelia.
Oh, I thought it was Emily.
Oh, was it Emily?
No.
It's actually Amelia, like Amelia, a letter.
Amelia.
But Emily, we are in the same time zone, kind of. So that works.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next week, let's work on this. And by the way, we're all supposed to be working on the budget. So during the
we do the budget
marketing,
after the plan.
No, I agree. So, all right. Well, let's just take that one offline too. All right. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
1 week, same bat time, same bat channel.
All right. See you then. Bye.
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 Bye bye.